What's up, guys? Welcome back to our channel. So today we're doing something different. We're just going to be talking a little bit about just finances and how we were able to purchase our first home. I think it is something that should be talked about a lot more because we don't learn about this stuff in school, and for us it was more of like a rude awakening. So
yeah, sorry I haven't been talking. I'm actually driving so we can grab some groceries, but Itzel is right. This video is going to be super awesome because we're talking about finances. I think we're going to start from, our Rexburg days, Rexburg, Idaho, when we knew nothing and we had nothing except the love for each other.
Yeah, it was really funny. So when we first got married, we got married in 2015. I was 19, Brenton was 22.
Yeah, 22.
22. We were halfway through our bachelor's degree and we were going to school at BYU, Idaho. So we got married and then moved up to Idaho, Rexburg, Idaho. And most of you guys who know Rexburg is just a small college city, college town, very limited job opportunities, and minimum wage, I'm sure it's probably still the same, it was $7.25 when we were out there, and it was very cheap to live there, but it was really hard in the sense of finding jobs that you loved or just anything that was competitive pay or even just remotely close to what you wanted to study. So I was working at a place called DHL Express Optimal Logistics. It was like a third-party shipping company, and they paid pretty well, but I was working like 10 hours a week, so that's not very much at all.
And I was actually working. Hey, you want to talk about that part? Like starting, like where we started off with like money before, okay, so I did.
Much to say, we had no money.
Okay, I did summer sales in Baltimore the summer before we got married. So I made money, good money. Obviously doing sales, you can make pretty good money. And I paid for our honeymoon. We bought a car, 2008 Toyota Corolla. We still drive it today. And after everything was paid for, we had $500 in our bank account. So we came home.
Which, to be clear, I didn't even know how much money we had. I had no money. I worked part-time while I was going to school, but obviously it was very part-time because my parents helped me out while I was single. High school,
not college, right?
What? Well, I worked part-time in high school for a little bit, and then in college I also picked up a job to pay for my own stuff. And my parents were super kind, and obviously I'm their only child, so every 2 weeks they would just deposit money into my bank account.
And not like tons, like maybe 20 bucks, 40 bucks max.
No, it was probably close to like $50 to $150 depending on like stuff. And that's why I got a job, so that I didn't have to ask my parents for money at all. But there was times I didn't have any money, and my mom would like log into the Chase account and say, hey, I just, dropped off $20 if you want to go get some food. And I'd be like, thank you so much. If you asked me how much money we had to start off, I would just say none, but Brenton can tell you $500, and I really had no idea that we had $500 in our account, which is nothing.
So $500 to me is not a lot of money. When that summer I made about, I think it was about $14,000 in 2.5 months, which is pretty good. It's about $5,500, almost a month. And we spent it, like I said, on the ring, on the new car, and then on the honeymoon. But Itzel and I started in Rexburg with $500. We actually deferred that semester. So we got married and we're like, heck.
And deferring means you take a semester off, for those of you who don't know that term. Yeah,
we just deferred the fall semester, and we went to my parents and we stayed there for a week
until our contract started at our apartment in Rexburg. And I will say we did live in like the nicest apartments. Rent was $705. Yeah. So anyway, I had a job. I honestly have no idea how we thought we were gonna get across, because Brenton only had seasonal jobs. He couldn't figure, it was crazy. It was so crazy. We couldn't find a job. I had a job before I got married, which is why I had the job afterwards. But Brenton,
I was working at a call center when Itzel and I were dating. They went under, so my sister and I lost our job there. We were calling and doing surveys, and then I was donating plasma to, you know, have money for groceries or to do fun activities with Itzel or go to the hot chocolate shop there by her apartment. But once we got married and we went back, the crazy thing is my parents own a Cold Stone here in American Fork, Utah and Saratoga Springs. So like, listen to how crazy this is. So Itzel and I, every other weekend, would drive to my parents' Cold Stone in American Fork, Utah, which was about 4 hours away. We came down every other weekend, and Itzel and I worked at my parents' Cold Stone Friday night from 5 till 12 o'clock at night. We would go home, sleep until about 8 or 8:30, wake up, and then I would work from 9 in the morning till 5. Itzel would come about 12 o'clock, and she would work with me from 12 till 12 o'clock at night. And then Sunday, we'd wake up and drive back to Rexburg. That was our money every 2 weeks to pay for rent, utilities, gas, and any other things that we had to pay for. And that was awesome for October and November.
Yep.
Then in December, I got a job at UPS, and I was making good money, $11. And Big Five, which was minimum wage, $7.25. I was working at Big Five Sporting Goods in the evenings or afternoons, and I would work at UPS, and I would move boxes into.
It was awful.
I think it was fun time.
We played volleyball on campus for free, like almost every single night. We were in different sports, but other than that, I'm like, we played cards. We didn't spend any money. Again, a little unrealistic given where we were located, Rexburg, Idaho. But again, we had no money.
But when you're in love with that significant other, like, there's no need to spend money. If you can be with each other and not spend money, you know it's love.
I don't know. I would. That's true. But I would go a little crazy because I'd want to go to like Target. You'd want to go drive into town, which is Idaho Falls, which is like a 40 minute drive.
Ooh! Jinx, you owe me a soda.
It was a 40 minute drive, and you know, they had a Target, they had a mall, and I'd want to go down there. If you consider that a mall. And Brenton would be like, we can go, and I'm like, okay, and I'd go, get super excited. He'd be like, try this on. Oh, that looks so good, and I'm like, yeah, so should I get it? And he's like, we can't. And I'm like, why not? We have no money. Really? I'm serious though, we have no money. And I'm like, so why do we even come? Like,
why do we come down here? Not to window shop. If I come here and I try something on and I like it, it's because we gonna get it.
Again, no concept of money. No, I was only 19. I hadn't been alone by myself for that long, and my parents were still somewhat helping me. But the reality was, as soon as I got married, my parents were like, bye-bye. My dad called me as soon as we got home from the honeymoon. Okay, not honeymoon, like 3 months after. And he's like, hey, so when are you getting off my phone bill? And I was like, oh, that's right. I guess we'll work on that. So like, it's not like my parents continued this at all. So I don't know. I wouldn't say I was spoiled at all. I just think my parents only had one daughter to take care of. So they wanted to make sure she had everything she needed.
And the cool thing about Itzel is that Itzel was very, very smart in the sense of she knew what she wanted, she had goals, she had aspirations. The only thing that she needed help with, like she said, was to understand finances. So I was like, we need to go over money. And I think after that day, we came home, I brought up my iPad and our bank account, and I showed her exactly how much money we had in there. And I wrote down, this is how much money we make every month from your 10 hours a week, my 12 hours a week with UPS and Big Five, and these are our expenses. And she was able to see firsthand that
we were barely making it through.
We had maybe $10 to $15 left over at the end of every 2 weeks combined. So I'm like, okay, we got $10 to $15 to splurge, and that's where the McChickens came in once a week, or double cheeseburgers, or 3 for 99-cent cookies.
It's going a little longer than I thought. Sorry.
So yeah, we had no money, but
okay. So step one for us in that situation was, what can we change? And I think for us, a big part was, okay, we're not in an environment that's allowing us to grow. Like, yes, school is here, but for us, gratefully, our degrees were offered online, or at least a similar degree for me was offered online. And his older brother suggested, like, hey, why don't you guys look into just switching your last 2 years to online, move out here and find another job, you know?
Out here to Utah.
Utah, right. And so we did that. Moved out here. We rented an apartment for $950. And I remember we had no money. We asked my mom if she could help us with a
first month deposit.
Yeah, because they require first month deposit. And last month?
We had $1,000, but we couldn't come up with another $1,000.
Oh, okay.
So Itzel's mom gave us $1,000, and within a month and a half of working at Mountain America and Itzel working remotely from home. We paid Itzel's mom back and we started our life here in Utah.
So once we moved to Utah, obviously things sped up a ton. We were going to school online full time, and Brenton worked full time, so he was really, really busy. It was a totally change in lifestyle where we were super slow paced, not doing much, which it was great for the first 6 months of our marriage to just like dive into us and not having to worry about everything else. But you know, then real life hit and we were like, hey, we got to pay rent, we got to do this, we got to do that, we have goals. So then I had a part-time job. Once I stopped working for DHL remotely, looked for a different job in a more related field to mine, and so I worked at a counseling office, and that's when we started looking into the possibilities of saving money because we were now making more money.
And this was April of 2016, so 6 months after we had gotten married. And he tells like, hey, how long do you think it'll take for us to get into a house? And I was like, oh, maybe when you're 24. And she's like, wow, that's like 5 years away. And at this time, I knew I wanted to get into a house. I didn't want to be paying into someone else's mortgage or future or, you know, their goals. But Itzel actually pushed me a little bit harder to say, hey, babe, I think we can do this. And Itzel's the one who actually kickstarted us to getting into a house.
What happened before that too, because I didn't come up with that on my own. We wanted to see where we were at because I think at this point the market was just looking really good. What happened was we wanted to see where we were at, so we went to our credit union and we went and met with the mortgage officer.
Brett Valinga, if you're in Utah, we recommend him.
He basically laid down all the rules. He said, you guys could make it off of you know, this is your price range for a home, but you would be really, really tight. So this is what I would suggest. I would suggest when you guys get into a point in your lives where your husband is making enough to cover your rent, or your mortgage, plus a few $100s more, see if you can live within that. He's like, put that money away. He's like, put your money away. Pretend like you're not working, because what if for some reason you can't work, or you know. So he kind of just opened our eyes to this. So I told Brenton, like, let's try it. I mean, at this point I was paying for groceries. What I technically was working for was to
pay back my mistake.
Just pay back any debt that we had. So at this point, you know, first we had my mom, which we didn't just say, oh, here are minimum payments. It was more like, hey, I'm gonna work, and instead of like dividing it up, I'm like, groceries, mom, groceries, mom, groceries, mom. Okay, mom's paid off. Okay. And gratefully we had people to go to, you know, so we didn't have to pay interest on it. But of course, like, I suggest the same thing. If you do have to get a loan from somewhere, just know that interest is your enemy. So don't just say, oh, I only have to pay the minimum payment. No, like, work as hard as you can so that you can like sacrifice as much as you can. I'm like, of course I wanted to have money left over. We had no money left over after he paid our rent, utilities, and groceries. But again, we tried to do our best to save money so that we could pay them off as soon as possible and not have those kinds of debts over us. And I'm sure we've done the same thing when we moved into our house, which we can talk about more.
But just going back to the house situation, so we were living in Saratoga Springs. We wanted to buy a house. It was now April of 2016. To give you perspective on this, these aren't, you know, exact numbers, but let's say she made $1,000 and I made $2,000. I would take $1,000, so my very first paycheck, and I would put it towards rent, and we'd live off of my second paycheck to pay utilities, pay car payment, pay, you know, groceries and all that. And Itzel would take her $1,000, and every month she would give herself $100 for tithing, charitable contributions if you aren't religious, and then she'd take another $100 for herself for eyebrows, makeup, nails, waxing, whatever she wanted, with $100, which is not a lot of money. $5,500 every 2 weeks, which was $1,000 a month, and she would give herself $50 every.
So sometimes I'm like, I only made like $600, and I'm like, shoot, like I only have
$60 for charitable contributions,
or, you know,
and then she has $540 left, $40 to keep for herself.
So I'm like, it just varied. Sometimes I didn't have as much as now this is something that helped us when we looked into homes with Oakwood, and they gave us the option we did a $2,000 construction earnest money, and then after that they said you can just drop off a check for $1,000 every month until you guys close, and that will be your deposit. So for us, that was really helpful because again, like, it was a really nice way to just save. But as soon as we saved the $1,000, we'd give it right to them, and then they were collecting it for our down deposit
in an escrow account,
right? So
which
that
we'll go over.
That was really, really awesome for us because we didn't have to. I don't know, I think sometimes you think about saving, but if something comes up, you always tap into your savings. So I think for us, that option, if you can find someone who does that for you, or if you can stay committed to putting it away where you can't visibly see it, that helped us because it was like, we have no choice. We already committed and we have to give them $1,000 every month. I don't know, it just kind of put it into perspective for us that that's kind of what we needed to do. Okay, sorry about that, guys. We had to relocate. But as we were saying, when we decided to go ahead and sign on the home, the only thing that they asked for was that construction deposit of $2,000. And so I believe we started looking end of October, and we signed probably mid to late November. So that gave us a little bit of time to decide what we wanted to do. And so we decided to go ahead. We had $2,000 that we were saving because, again, we were following advice from the mortgage officer who
right once we decided, okay, we want to move into a place, like we're ready to do this. By the time January came around, my brother and his wife had just built a townhome, and we said, hey, let's cut expenses, and instead of paying $950 in rent, we'll go live with them. And they said, hey, that'll help us with our mortgage, and we'll charge you guys $500 bucks.
Their idea too, because they did the same thing to get into their home. So yeah, so what we ended up doing was we found someone else to take our lease at our apartment, and I think we ended it like
3 months early.
Was it 3 months?
Because we did.
Also, I want to mention around this time, we both were working full-time and going to school full-time. So if you can picture that, we really didn't have much of a social life. All we did was work, come home, and do homework.
No social life, and we didn't spend money, which actually made it nice. So we just spent time with family, with my brother and his wife, who had only been married for 6 months.
No.
Or a year, sorry. We had only been married for 6 months.
That's not true. We'd been married for a little over a year.
They were on a year and a half, sorry.
They were on 2 years.
By January?
Yes, because Jaden was born.
2 years for them, a year and a half for us, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, timing.
I don't have a concept of money, and he has no concept of time.
Yeah, so she helps me with that, and I help her with money. But essentially from there, we were able to save money, and writers were like, sweet, we have tons of savings. We're putting $1,000 to our house every month. Boom, the brakes on my car go off. Now we got to get that fixed.
My battery goes out. We all started carpooling. That saved us a lot of money on gas. We were budgeting gas, and we will attach, obviously, in the next video, the budget sheets that we used and the menus I was talking about. So our house wasn't ready until August 1st.
But we'd still save 10 grand plus the $2,000 construction deposit or earnest money that you have to put down with any house. And so right there was 12 grand. Over the 10 months plus the $2,000 that you gave. And then in July of 2017, we had to bring the money for closing costs. So all in, we ended up paying about $17,000 to $18,000.
But just so you guys know, it was over time. Like, we had to wait almost a year, and there was a lot of sacrifice in the sense that, like, we cut our lease short, so then we moved with family for this long, and it's like, even though you're moving in with family, like, I think it's important to remember, like, that doesn't mean you can splurge and go out and eat and do this. Like, no, like, you should really, really save. I mean, we learned in those times that even when you're saving, your car will still go out, and it's another $500, and then this
Brakes
will happen.
Will go out, tires, $700.
All this stuff happened all at the same time, so it was really frustrating, but it was a growing experience for me, and I'm sure just for our marriage, because we were able to do something hard and do it together. I'm like, we weren't making much money. We were probably making $11-12 an hour.
Once I got the promotion, I was now at $13.50.
Okay,
and so that was, and I was working full time and had commissions from sales. So.
Right, and he got commissions and stuff. But base pay, I'm like, we're not looking at anything extravagant. I'm like, we were able to do this on a pretty low salary. But again, it just took time, and it definitely took a lot of sacrifice on certain things. I did shop, so I'm like, it was either I got my nails done or I went shopping, or I would save a little bit amount of money throughout the few months, and then I would treat myself to a bit of a shopping spree, but my shopping sprees were like H&M sale rack, which was fine for me. I was totally fine to do that. But again, it just takes a little bit of sacrifice.
So as you can see, like Itzel said, it wasn't, oh, we found this house, they built it in 3 months, we were in 4 months. This is something that took time. We didn't move into our house right away. It took lots of sacrifice, like Itzel said. We learned to budget together even more than we had when we were living in Rexburg, because we were making more money. And we could have taken that money and bought newer cars, said, let's buy something that appreciates, which was our house that we're sitting in right now. And so we want to, you know, show you guys the numbers. We'll probably put it on another screen, but probably the best decision that we've made, because now we're paying into something that appreciates and it's ours. Like if we want to sell this home and jump into another home, we have equity in this house and we're able to say that it's something that we did together. It wasn't, you know, our parents helping us pay for this. We didn't have guarantors. We didn't have, you know, other people on the loan. It was Itzel and myself that were able to do this because of sacrifice, hard work, and because we had goals. We had aspirations of things we wanted to do.
But also, I want to be realistic about our situation. Obviously, we moved to Utah when the house market was low. I mean, we can't compare to living in California, you know? But again, if we would have stayed in Rexburg for our entire lives, or at least for the next 4 years, we wouldn't have been able to get ahead as fast as we did, or we wouldn't have been able to get into our home. So obviously, everyone has different circumstances and you have to be in certain places, but I just think that the first thing that we evaluated was like, where are we located and what opportunities are found here? Are we able to move? If not, then I'm like, what can we cut off? Cut out. There we go. For example, Brenton's a big no-no on subscriptions. I'm like, the only subscriptions I have Hulu, and then our gym memberships.
And the gym membership was discounted through my work through a corporate membership pass. And other than that, no subscription.
You know, I'm just trying to figure out like the most minimal things that you can sacrifice now so that you can have things later, in the sense that we don't, like I said, we don't have fancy cars, we don't drive fancy cars. I think getting into the minimalist mentality of like, I don't need this, will really help you cut out unnecessary spending. At least that's the first thing that I would suggest. You know, if you're in a situation where your rent is really high, you know, I'm like, what can we do to like brainstorm ideas? Where can we cut money out? What, you know, does it mean eating out less? I'm like, figure out how much money you spend on eating out. I know that was a big one for me until he did all the math, and he's like, you're spending $250 a month eating out if you're eating out this many times, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, it seems like the simplest things, but if you can cut those things out, not forever, but just for a period of time, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, just like Itzel said, and we'll probably talk about this in another video, ways to cut down your expenses to improve cash flow or improve savings. Like Itzel said, you know, subscriptions with Disney Plus, Hulu, and Netflix. Obviously, these are good things, but pick one. You don't need all three. If you need to go to the gym, you don't need a Lifetime Fitness, $60 per person per month. You can, you know, do a Lifetime Fitness, 24-hour fitness, which is, you know, $10, $15, $20 max a month.
Yeah.
And it's hard, obviously, when you work full-time, you and your spouse, or you have kids and you come home from work, or you're in school and you have homework, and you're gonna grab McDonald's for $5, $10, which doesn't seem like a lot of money, but when you add it up over 30 days for 2 people, like Itzel said, I mean, if she spent $10 a day on lunch, over 5 days, that's $50 for one meal for one person. If she works Monday through Friday, that's $200 a month, and we were spending $200 a month on groceries. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will make sure to post more specifics in future videos with mortgage prices, our down payments, how we saved for it, as well as how to cut expenses out of your current monthly and bi-weekly budgets. So make sure that you like, comment, and share this video with anyone that could benefit from how to budget, anyone that's looking to get into a house, and comment things that you'd like to see from us, because the more you comment, the more videos we make. And just let us know what you guys want to see, and we'll make sure to keep those videos coming.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and let us know if you have any other questions. I know this is just our experience, but we hope that it can help you guys in some way.
So Webb Crew, we out.